You know those moments in music where a single note just seems to bloom? It stretches out, repeats, swirls around, creates this incredible depth.
Yeah, that delay magic.
Exactly. Today, we're diving deep into where that kind of sound really became, well, accessible for pretty much every musician.
That's right. We're unpacking the story of a real game changer, the Boss DD2 digital delay. Our sources for this deep dive, they're pretty solid, lots of great articles, historical accounts. They really detail its history, the tech inside, and honestly, it's almost legendary status now.
Okay, so our mission, like always, is to cut through all the tech talk, pull out the really important stuff, and give you the shortcut to understanding why this little stomp box became such a giant, what made it so special back then, and why are people still talking about it, collecting it decades later.
Let's get into it.
All right.
So let's set the scene. Picture yourself, you're a musician, early 80s, you want delay, right? What are your options?
Well, not great ones mostly. You're probably looking at bulky tape units. Think Echoplex, maybe a Roland Space Echo. Iconic sound, sure, but a total pain to haul around and keep working. Right.
Exactly. Temperamental things.
Mm.
Or if you had serious cash or studio access, maybe these massive, super expensive rack mount digital delays.
So getting that kind of pristine, studio digital delay sound onto a stage in a pedal, that was basically just a dream.
Pretty much a pipe dream. Yeah, it was a real barrier, creatively and practically.
Okay.
Until 1983,
Yeah.
Boss just completely changed the game with the DD2. And it wasn't just like another delay pedal. It was the very first compact digital delay. Period.
The first one ever in a pedal format.
The first. Think about that. They took technology that lived in expensive studio racks, shrunk it down, and literally put studio-grade digital delay right at your feet in a stomp box.
That's huge for gigging musicians. I mean, suddenly you don't need a van just for your delay effect.
Right. You just slap this little orange box on your board.
And it wasn't just small, was it? The sources stress it wasn't like a toy version. It was powerful.
Precisely. That's the key thing. It wasn't a compromise. It actually used the exact same 12-bit PCM chip, the brain, basically, as the Roland SDE 3000 rack unit.
Wait, the SDE 3000, that was like the professional standard in studios then, wasn't
Some
it?
top tier. A
Yeah.
studio staple worldwide.
Yeah.
So you were getting that sound quality, but now it was portable, accessible. It was, well, revolutionary. Nothing short of it.
Okay, so how? How did they cram all that studio power into a little pedal? What was the magic under the hood?
Well, that's the brilliant engineering part. So at its heart, it used 12-bit PCM digital processing. Now, 12-bit,
Which sounds maybe low res today, but back then.
back then, it was cutting edge for something like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, 12-bit on its own has limitations. So to get more out of it dynamically, they use this clever trick called companding.
Companding, like compressing and expanding?
Sort of, yeah. Think of it like intelligently boosting the quiet bits before it gets stored digitally and then bringing them back down on playback. It made the 12 bits sound a lot richer, giving it more perceived dynamic range.
Whoop.
Very clever. And this wasn't cheap, off-the-shelf stuff. This was high-tech for a pedal in '83.
You mentioned high tech, and the sources do say the memory chip they needed, the digital memory, was physically large and really expensive back then.
Oh, yeah. That definitely pushed the price up.
So did that make it hard to sell initially, or was the demand just overwhelming?
It was definitely premium for a pedal.
Yeah.
About, what, $240 in '83, which, adjusted for inflation, is like closer to $700 today.
Wow. Okay.
But the thing is, musicians were desperate for this. The convenience, the sound quality, it justified the cost pretty quickly.
Right.
Finally, you could get pro delay sounds outside the studio.
Makes sense. And the controls were simple enough.
Yeah, really intuitive for the time. You had your effect level knob, that's your mix, dry versus wet, feedback for how many repeats,
Yeah.
and delay time, obviously, standard stuff.
But there was something else, right? That mode selector?
Ah, yes. The
Yeah.
four-way mode selector. That's where it got really innovative and opened up creative doors.
Right. The sources really flagged this. It wasn't just different time ranges. Well, it was, but more than that. You had short, like 50 to 200 milliseconds.
Yep, for your classic slapback stuff.
Then medium, 200 to 800 milliseconds, a bit more space.
Right.
And long for those big ambient washes, 200 up to what, 1600 milliseconds?
1600, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty epic for the time. But the real showstopper.
Was the hold mode. Everyone mentions the hold mode.
Exactly. That hold mode gave you about 800 milliseconds of looping, or sampling, really.
In 1983, in a delay pedal.
Yeah. I mean, think about that. It was basically an early looper built right in. Mind-blowing stuff back then.
So you could actually layer sounds live.
Totally. Create textures on the fly. And it's interesting, that 800 millisecond limit. It seems short now, but it actually pushed musicians.
So?
Well, you couldn't just make endless washes easily.
Right.
You had to be concise, rhythmic, really creative within that limit. It forced a kind of focused ingenuity. Led to some really cool, tight, rhythmic delay patterns that became signatures for some players. It wasn't a bug, it was a feature, almost.
Okay, that makes sense. So we know the tech, the features, but the sound, what did it actually sound like? Sources call it unique.
It definitely had its own voice. Compared to the older analog delays, the BBD ones.
Bucket brigade devices.
Right, those pedals have a cool sound, but they inherently color the tone, add a bit of noise, the repeats get darker and mushier. The DD2, being digital, was way cleaner, much more precise, a big step towards, modern clarity.
But not too clean, apparently. Not sterile like some modern digital stuff can be.
That's the crucial point. You're spot on. It wasn't invisible. It had this slight, almost grainy texture to the repeats.
Grainy from the 12-bit process.
Exactly. It's a characteristic of that early digital tech. And that graininess, combined with the clarity, gave it this unique warmth that, honestly, a lot of super clean modern delays just don't have.
So it kind of bridged the gap. Cleaner than analog, but warmer than later digital.
Perfectly put. It hit this sonic sweet spot. Digital precision, but with character. Analog warmth wasn't quite there. Modern digital often sounds different. It had its own thing. That's why some people still chase that specific sound today.
Right. So when something that cool and useful comes out, the pros usually jump on it pretty fast. Who were some of the big names using the DD2 early on?
Oh, it got adopted quickly.
Wow.
You had guys like The Edge from U2. Now, he's famous for his big rack units, the Korg STD-3000s and such.
His sound is legendary.
But he definitely experimented with the DD2 and its successor, the DD3. You can hear that kind of clean, rhythmic digital delay in his playing.
Okay. Who else?
Steve Vai. Known for, incredible technique and precision, he relied on these Boss digital delays for those super tight articulate repeats.
Makes sense for his style. And Andy Summers, The Police, another delay master.
Absolutely. Summers was known to use Boss units, too, weaving them into those atmospheric textures the Police were famous for.
So it wasn't just the big rock stars pushing boundaries. It sounds like it became a real workhorse, too. For session guys.
Totally. Countless session players in the 80s grabbed DB2s. Why? Because they were reliable, they sounded pro, and they were small. A perfect replacement for those clunky racks on countless records and gigs. It just worked. Earned its keep on so many pedal boards.
Interesting. Now, the DD2 itself didn't last that long in production, did it? Only 83 to 85.
Relatively short run, yeah.
Yeah.
But its impact, huge. It basically laid the groundwork, the DNA, for generations of digital delays that followed. It set the standard.
And its successor, the DD3, came out right after in 86.
Yep. And the GD3 was, internally, almost identical at first. The main change was Boss finding cheaper memory chips using surface mount tech, which brought the cost down.
So those early made-in-Japan DD3s are basically DD2s in disguise.
Pretty much. Very similar circuit, very similar sound. And that DD3, well, it became one of Boss's longest-running, most successful pedals ever. Still making variations of it today. Shows how solid that original DD2 design really was.
And the family just grew from there. You got the DD5 later in the 90s, adding tap tempo.
Which was huge for playing live, syncing delays easily.
Then the DD7 in the 2000s, more time, modulation effects.
Analog simulations, too, trying to capture different flavors.
And now the DD8, with stereo, looping built back in, tons of modes. It's clear that Lineage all started with the DD2.
No question. It set the stage. Which brings up an interesting point. Why are those original DD2s so collectible now? And often quite pricey?
Yeah, good question. Is it just history? Nostalgia?
That's part of it, for sure. Historical significance. But it really comes back to that unique sound we talked about, that early digital sweet spot. It's cleaner than analog, yeah, but it has that specific warmth, that subtle graininess.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different from hyper-clean modern units. It's a distinct sonic signature that people actively seek out.
So, pulling it all together, what's the big takeaway here? The Boss DD2, it wasn't just another pedal, was it?
Not at all. It was genuinely a revolution. It took professional, studio-level digital delay, shrunk it down into a practical, affordable stomp box, and put it right at the feet of musicians everywhere.
And that just fundamentally changed how people made music, how they thought about using effects, crafting sounds.
Absolutely. The DD2 is more than just gear. It's proof of how smart innovation, even in a small box, can connect different tech eras. It bridged analog and digital in a way, and it sparked so much new musical expression.
Its sound, its whole spirit.
Yeah.
You can still feel its influence today.
Definitely. It's still shaping how people make music, whether they realize it or not.
So here's something to think about. The next time you hear some really cool textured delay, maybe on an old 80s classic, maybe on some cutting edge ambient track today, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, how much of that sound is truly brand new and how much is maybe standing on the shoulders of that little orange giant, the Boss DD2? It really makes you think about like the DNA of sound, where these ideas originally sparked from, doesn't it?